Arguably the most highly anticipated sports video game of all time, EA Sports College Football 25 drops on July 19th. But before the product is out for the general public, the game's top 100 player rankings were revealed on Wednesday. So we took a day to digest these rankings before we discussed them. Now we're going to discuss them. And joining me in studio to break down the rankings is a college football enthusiast. He's also a host at SportsGrid. My guy, Ben Stevens, joins me here. Ben, how you doing, man?
Dexter, great to be here. Hotly debated rankings.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime you put out a top 100 for the most highly anticipated video game, maybe of all time, our first college football video game in more than a decade, there will be some thoughts flying for sure.
Oh, there's been thoughts, opinions, people getting in their feelings, I should say, about a lot of things. I don't think Ben is in his feelings, and that's why I had Ben here to talk about this. So, Ben, when we look at these player rankings, right, no player earned what is coveted. People know this from Madden and college football, EA games, 99 overall rating. Nobody got that, but the highest overall rating in the game did go to 3 players, that being at 96. Were the players who received a 96 overall rating, were they deserving of that rating?
First, let's start with the 99. Many people were scared they might give somebody a 99, unjustifiably so. So I think it's really good that EA Sports did not give out a 99 overall player rating. In terms of the 3 that earned the 96, Michigan's cornerback Will Johnson, Will Campbell, the big offensive lineman for LSU, and the nation's leading rusher, and Ollie Gordon II, returning this year to Oklahoma State. All justified. Will Johnson, a lockdown member of last year's national championship secondary for Michigan, back in Ann Arbor under Sharon Moore. Will Campbell, all SEC first-team selection, the anchor of the offensive line in Baton Rouge, justified there at a 96 overall as well. And Ollie Gordon II, an interesting offseason for OG2, as we learned at Big 12 Media Days in Las Vegas earlier this week. But in terms of his football acumen, the best running back in the country is back in college football for a second consecutive year. So that's a big thing for Oklahoma State.
All right, so you like it. You like all 3 players who got the 96, and we got that out the way. Nobody gets a 99. You said it wasn't deserved either, although somebody would probably be mad that somebody didn't get a 99. But let's do this. Let's look at the quarterbacks here that were rated very highly. You got Shedeur Sanders, a lot of hype around him, of Colorado, and Carson Beck of Georgia. They are the highest-ranked signal callers in the game. If you're playing this game, which QB are you rocking with? If you had to choose one while playing this game, who's going to be the more fun QB to go with in terms of their ranking?
With all due respect to both Carson Beck and Shedeur Sanders, I'm going with Kansas's Jalen Daniels, one of the most electric quarterbacks in all of college football, Dexter. A dynamic quarterback, a dual threat to the nth degree at that position for the Jayhawks, and maybe a little bit slept on. The 9th quarterback out of the top 10 in those rankings. Only played 3 games last year in the NIL era before the season for KU. He was filming a commercial with Frosted Flakes, injured his back. It was a very much will he, won't he play each and every week. But when he is out there, he is as good as they come. Close to a 75% completion percentage last year. 5 passing touchdowns, can do plenty more with his legs. If fully healthy this year and in the video game, I'm choosing Jalen Daniels every time.
So he's somebody you could see his rating going up as the season goes. The real college football season goes on with the game. Just want to be clear on that for the people. I mentioned Colorado before, Shedeur Sanders. Let's stay with them. They've got 2 players ranked in the top 17, right? You got 2-way star Travis Hunter Jr. and Sanders there. How does this translate into real life? Because with 2 clear-cut stars in the sport, will the Buffaloes, and we talked a little bit about this before we started recording, will they be good this season? A lot of people want to see them make the jump. Are they a definitive bowl team, or do they fall just short below that?
It's kind of the epitome of year number 2 for Colorado. The fact they have so much individual talent, one of the best quarterbacks in the country and in the Big 12 in Shedeur Sanders, and the best 2-way player, maybe the only 2-way player in Travis Hunter returning as well. So much individual talent. But Dexter, the way that Deion Sanders constructs his roster, constructs his program, is all the moving parts in the transfer portal. Will that roster construction gel? That's the interesting question. 5.5 is the preseason win total on the Buffs. I think it's right around there for CU. I would probably lean under for a program that has only won 5 total football games the last 2 seasons. But even getting to 5 wins would be year-over-year improvement for Coach Prime in year number 2. It's all about relative expectation. With so much notoriety and attention on CU, is a bowl game, just their second bowl trip in the last decade and a half. Would that be considered success? You would think football X's and O's, yes, certainly so, with all the national attention extension paid to Boulder, Colorado? Maybe not. But if they can flirt with bowl eligibility, I would consider it improvement and a successful season for CU.
Yeah, I think you're being pretty rational there. The one thing I think we can also be rational on is if you're playing with either of those guys in the game, Travis Hunter Jr. or Shedeur Sanders, going to be pretty exciting, especially with the rating that they have. Okay, this is going to be the fun part of our conversation here, because I got to let the people know. Some people in this building, in where we filmed this, including my producer, Brian Wachowski, they choose to root for West Virginia. Okay? I don't know why they do that, but they do. They feel that the Mountaineers, who, I want to know, one player, guys, ranked in the top 100 in the game, they feel, Ben, that they're being underrepresented, undervalued, and, this is quote, I was told this, disrespected. Now, everybody knows I'm a proud University of Pittsburgh alum. My Pitt Panthers, and for full transparency, they didn't have anybody make the top 100 of the rankings. So two-part question here for me. Who should feel more disrespected? The Panthers, who have nobody in the top 100, or the Mountaineers, who've got one? And which team do you think will have more players ranked in the top 100 by the end of this college football season?
If I can be frank, I don't think either program should feel disrespected, but I think West Virginia has a brighter outlook for 2024. No disrespect, my good friend Dexter Henry. 3-9 last year for Pitt under Pat Narduzzi, the worst in his era. But West Virginia last year, 9 wins, including a bowl victory over North Carolina. Starting quarterback Garrett Green is back. Neil Brown, with all of the attention and the hot seat last year in Morgantown, certainly delivered. Big shout out to Wyatt Milam, anchor of that offensive line. He was the one player for the Mountaineers inside the top 100. Meanwhile, Pitt's roster, not overly deep or talented, at least entering 2024. If there was one guy by the end of the year that could be top 100 for the Panthers, keep a lookout on the young tight end Gavin Bartholomew. 18 yards per reception last season, a big play threat for that Pitt offense. If there is going to be growth, maybe the tight end gets some love.
You know what? Gave some hope for the Pitt Panthers.
Have to do it.
You could have been a little harder on the Mountaineers, but I'll give you a pass, Ben. I'll give you a pass on that. I think Brian Wachowski is somewhere smiling about this. Let me ask you this, because we talk about the top 100. Were there any significant omissions from the top 100 that you feel very strongly about that should have been included?
It's tough to say. There's 134 FBS college football programs, so when you have all the players on those rosters, I think one name to know, though, that could be in the top 100 when all is said and done, and had he played more games a season ago, it's Minnesota's running back Darius Taylor. Injured throughout his true freshman season, only playing in 6 games for the Golden Gophers, but in 4 of the 6, Dexter, he had more than 100 yards on the ground. Hugely big play threat for this Minnesota offense. And if he is healthy, knowing how Minnesota constructs their offense, they like to start on the ground, establishing the run. Darius Taylor is a name that every college football fan, especially in the Big Ten, should know by the end of this season, that if we have EA Sports College Football 2026 and Darius Taylor returns to the sport, he will be inside the top 100.
All right, so definitely inside the top 100 next season. So that's a player to look for. I like that. Somebody that people can follow and see if his ranking moves up throughout the season. Ben, which players in the top 100 rankings that have been released do you think are the most overrated? Who's in there that needs to get out? Who do you have?
So I don't know if anybody is overrated, but there are 2 running backs out of the same school for Ohio State, both ranked in the top 20. If that is true, Ohio State might set record after record after record offensively on the ground this year in Columbus. Quinshon Judkins, the transfer from Ole Miss, ranks inside the top 10. Travion Henderson, who remains at Ohio State, also ranking inside the top 20. To have 2 running backs check in the top 20 for the Buckeyes, who are the most players out of any collegiate program inside the top 100, 8 Buckeyes inside those rankings. Just to have 2 at the same position inside the top 20 caught me off guard a little bit.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you're playing the game and you like running the ball, you might want to roll with Ohio State there, unless you like Michigan. You don't want to do that. I understand that completely. Conversely, which players do you think are the most underrated, and what factors contribute maybe to their lower rankings or people having them a bit lower in terms of that rating than you think they should be?
2 guys, both young and maybe a little bit under the radar. One who checked in at 83 overall. Purdue safety Dylan Thieneman, He was absolutely electric last year in the secondary for the Boilermakers. 46 players, Dexter, last year at the FBS level recorded more than 105 tackles. We had 14 that recorded more than 70 total tackles, or solo tackles rather, and there was 18 FBS secondary players that recorded 5 or more interceptions. Only one nationally in the entire sport that did all 3. That's Purdue's Dylan Thieneman. He was a freshman All-American, checking in at 83. He's going to move up those rankings by the time the season is done. And one out of the SEC, Oscar Delp, who steps in for Brock Bowers, who, of course, was a pick to the New York Jets, or Las Vegas Raiders, excuse me. He was projected maybe to go to the Jets at Georgia last year. Similar time and kind of physical frame for Brock Bowers and Oscar Delp, who checked in at number 99 for the Georgia Bulldogs. Tight end, athletic freak. He's going to be involved in UGA's offense that I think is going to be quite prolific in 2024. So slightly underrated, just barely making it inside the top 100.
I like this. This gives people players to watch as they play this game and see how their ratings develop throughout the season. Okay, which player or players do you predict will rise and become the best by the end of this college football season that will be shocked if you see him top 5, top 10, up in that level?
So there was one guy specifically that I was very surprised as how low he checked into the rankings. Jabbar Muhammad, cornerback now at Oregon, transferred from Washington, staying within the conference, if you will, but was a key member of the Huskies secondary a season ago that led them to that national championship game appearance against Michigan. He goes to Oregon, and many thought at 65, EA Sports, are you watching Jabbar Muhammad play the cornerback position? I think he is going to make his way up. And if you are a fan of Texas, despite the fact that Arch Manning is now officially in the game, Quinn Ewers has to be higher than, I think, 23 is where he checked in on the rankings. He's a Heisman contender. He has one of the 5 shortest prices to win the Heisman Trophy before the year gets underway. If Texas gets back to the college football playoff, is a true contender in the SEC in its first year in the league, Quinn Ewers has to be in the top 10 by the time the season is done.
That would be a good jump for him, and we think the talent's good there for Quinn Ewers. But, a lot of people also going to want to put Archie Manning in the game this season. They're going to want to have him starting. Got to ask you this before we leave. Are you purchasing the game? Will you be playing EA Sports College Football 25? And who will you be rolling with this season?
I haven't had a gaming console in a very, very long time. My good friend who lives across the street from me, my neighbor, has an Xbox. I will be over there next week to get ready for the game. He actually is leaving New York City. Told me I can take the Xbox when he moves. So I plan on doing that. And I'm going to go dynasty mode. I'm not going to go with the heavy hitters. Not going to go with the blue bloods. Not going to go with the powerhouses. Give me a team out of the MAC like Kent State that I can lead to glory in college football. We'll start small. We will build Kent State from Kent, Ohio, or insert X-Max team into a national powerhouse, winning multiple national championships, Dexter, when all is said and done.
All right, so the recruiting is going to be strong.
Yeah,
Your NIL game is
paying a lot of money. We're going to give out a lot of money.
Yeah. Get things done, a lot of national championships.
Yeah.
All right, you're going to be a legend in the game.
Yeah. A MAC legend, if that can be one thing. If Ben Stevens is remembered as one thing in life, make sure it's a MAC legend from EA Sports College Football 25.
The best thing I heard there was the team you decided not to choose was West Virginia. I'm glad you did well there. That is Ben Stevens. Check him out on SportsGrid. One of the best talking football, college football. He's one of the best. So much fun. Glad you came and joined me to talk some EA Sports College Football 25 rankings.
Thanks for having me. I'm getting hyped for the game right now.
I'm hyped too. I think I might buy it, and maybe I'll bring Pitt back to glory. We got to do that. Thanks, Ben. Appreciate you, man.
Of course.